The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So a little impromptu, early morning Command Post action. Commander's getting busy early. Adam Peters beating the NFL cut down day rush by going out and getting a kicker from the Cleveland Browns for a conditional 7th round pick in Kade York. So let's get a little bit of background, information on Kade York before a lot of you start jumping the gun and feeling great about this move, right? Like, there's a reason Kade York was available. Now, I've said this before about kickers, especially ones that have been here. With kickers, a lot of times, unfortunately, you don't get the best of that kicker in his first stop. He takes a little while to figure it out and get comfortable. And then once he does and that light bulb comes on, he can be extraordinary and be one of the, better parts of the team, or the most consistent parts, one of the more consistent parts of your team if you get lucky. You just got to get that guy at the right time. Case in point, Dustin Hopkins. Part of the reason that Kade York is no longer in Cleveland is because the Browns got Dustin Hopkins, and then he went out and had a career year, and they just gave him a 4-year contract that made him the 3rd highest paid kicker at the time of that contract. We're looking around and saying, where the hell was that Dustin Hopkins at? That's life in the kicker game, right? You hope you get the guy at the time where he figures it out. We were hoping that was going to be the case with Joey Sly. It wasn't. But Joey seems to be winning the kicking competition in New England. A lot of you were looking for Joey Sly to maybe come back here. Probably not going to happen. I've always been against drafting a kicker higher than the 5th round. The Browns spent a 4th round pick on Kade York back in 2022. That never seems to work out well for the team that spends that pick. I can't tell you how many teams spent high-level draft picks on place kickers only to find out that they just made a monumental mistake. And there's nothing worse than drafting a kicker and him not working out, especially if you draft one on day 2 of the draft, which to me, there's never an excuse to do that. But I've said this, 5th round and later, I got no issues. Anything before the 5th round, this guy better be the next coming of, Justin Tucker or something, because I can't rationalize in my brain how you spend a pick on a kicker prior to the 5th round. But the Browns did it. And in their defense, they had some big time kicking woes the year prior. And so it was a dire need for them. They went to the extreme. I still don't think it necessitates you selecting a kicker before the 5th round, but they took Kade York in the 4th. He was a very decorated kicker out of LSU coming into the NFL, one of the better kickers in all of college football, which is what gets you picked, before the 5th round. And he came out of the gates like gangbusters. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at Kade York. Look, there's nothing guaranteed here. Understand the compensation, a conditional 7th round pick. I'm assuming that condition is he has to make our roster for you to get this 7th round pick, which means if he doesn't, then we get our pick back. So he's not guaranteed to win this job, which is why Adam Peters made this move prior to the preseason game, because they want to give him an opportunity to come in here, practice, get some kicks up, and then kick on Sunday night. And if he does a good job and they feel good about him, look, they have until Tuesday to make a decision, right? So they'll have opportunities to see what he can and can't do prior to cut down day. They already know what Riley Patterson is at this point. For Riley Patterson to still be on this team after 4 o'clock on Tuesday would mean that Kade York was an epic fail. Okay. All Kade York has to do is come in here and not vomit all over himself, and he'll be the place kicker for this team for the time being. Again, I'm not super comfortable with Kade York, but I'm more comfortable with him than I am Riley Patterson. I told you guys from the jump, I never liked Riley Patterson. I don't have the same type of feeling about Kade York because he's so young. The man's only kicked 1 year in the NFL. Okay. So again, there's not as much data on him. The 1 year that he kicked, really up and down, which is why the Browns, sought out the services of one, as we know, Dustin Hopkins, and then D-Hop has a career year, and such is life. They moved on from Kade York. He bounced around the NFL last year. He was with the Titans. He was with the Giants, and then ultimately landed back in Cleveland this offseason. But again, Dustin Hopkins is their kicker. So Kade York was expendable. We swoop in. We get him. Now let's see what he's got. Let's look at his 2022 season, because really that's the only season that he kicked in the league. And it was a disappointing season. He missed 8 kicks, started out like gangbusters. Let's take a look at his numbers. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape for Kade York. So I can tell you this much. I'm excited that they did something. I don't know if this is the ultimate answer or not. I remember watching Kade York come out of LSU, and I remember him drilling that game-winning field goal because I had the Panthers in that game. That was the Baker Mayfield revenge game, if you recall, back in 2022, when Baker Mayfield was traded to the Panthers in the offseason, and he hadn't been in Carolina very long. And I was like, oh, Bake's going to get their ass. And he took the Panthers down the field on a game-winning drive, or at least we thought it was a game-winning drive. And they took the lead late in that ball game, only for the Browns to drive into field goal range, and Kade York burying like a 56 or 58-yard field goal to win the game. His first game in the NFL, he went 4 for 4 in that game from distance, and he also made every single extra point and was the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week in his first game of his career. That was the height of his career. That was the highlight. You never want the first game to be your best game, but that was the case for him. So if we look at the overall stats for Kade York in 2022, which is the only year he was a place kicker in the NFL. No attempts from 1 to 19 yards, which is what it's supposed to be. In today's NFL, you shouldn't be attempting a field goal inside of 20 yards. You should be going for it on 4th down at that point. Okay. 20 to 29 yards, 5 of 5. You better be 5 of 5. You better be perfect from 20 to 29 yards. We've had kickers here that weren't perfect from 20 to 29 yards, including Joey Sly, who loved to miss chip shot field goals. 30 to 39, that's a little worrisome, right? 9 of 12. Again, that's not that far away from 20 to 29. I'd like you to be pretty much perfect from there. You may slip up and miss 1 here or there. He missed 3. That's not good, right? Money distance, 40 to 49. That's the money distance. 6 of 8. That's okay. It's not great. You could be better, but it's not terrible, right? 50 to 59, 4 of 6. That's excellent. Okay, that is excellent. That is what you want. Okay, he's making over 66% of his kicks or so from distance, right? That's what you want. And there were some bombs in there. I talked about like a 56, a 58. There's some bombs in there. So he's got a big leg, no doubt about it. And then he attempted one from 60 plus, and he was 0 of 1 there. But the fact that they even trotted him out there for a 60, yard field goal tells you that they had confidence in his leg and his ability to kick it that far. So there's no doubt about his leg. He can definitely kick it. 24 of 32, which is 75%. Not good, not very good, right? Which is why they brought in some. He struggled, and that wasn't enough for them to run after his rookie season. You don't run from a kicker that you drafted in the 4th round because they made 75% of their field goals in their rookie season. You don't run, right? It's what he did thereafter that forced them to go out and get Dustin Hopkins. He struggled in camp, much like we've seen from the kickers that we've had here this camp. He struggled in camp. And they said, okay, you made 75% of your kicks last year on 32 attempts, which is not good. Now you're struggling in camp. We can't wait around to see if you're going to figure it out. We got to bring in some competition. And then Dustin knocked him, slam out of the ring, and they moved on, right? So he hit the streets. He bounced around. He really never found a home. The Browns picked him back up because Dustin Hopkins, I believe, had like off-season surgery or something like that. So they needed somebody to kick while Dustin was on the mend. Dustin's back. He's no longer needed. Instead of him being cut and Washington having, again, we were second in line, right? If we wanted him, we could have just waited, but we didn't want to wait. And the Browns could have just waited until Tuesday to cut him, and then we wouldn't have gotten to see him in potentially a preseason game. And I think they want to see him in that environment. It'd be nice if we actually scored some points. And you know, again, I think the situation that was put in front of Riley Patterson was perfect last week. You know, you'd want to score more opportunity, have more scoring opportunities, but they had some deep field goals and he missed, right? Gave him some opportunities to kick some field goals from distance. He didn't knock them down. So that's what you want to see, right? So we quickly go through his regular season back in 2022. If you look all the way at the bottom, that's where week 1 is, right? And I talked about that game, 26-24 victory. He went 4-4, including a 58-yarder with the game on the line, right? Doesn't get much better than that. That's storybook, you know, fairy tale ending type of stuff for a rookie kicker in his very first NFL game. 4-4, 2 of 2 from extra points, and then a bomb from 58 with the game on the line. It doesn't get much better than that, right? He started out his NFL career 8 of 8. They thought they had figured out their field goal kicking situation, and they're feeling good. You know, what a great 4th-round selection we have here in Kade York. They felt excellent. And then the wheels started to fall off. He went 0 of 2 in a game against the Chargers in week 5. His first 2 misses of his NFL career, I may add. And they lost that game 30-28. And he had ample chances at the end to make a field goal to win the game, and he missed both of them. I remember that game because I had the Browns. I never come out on the right end of these things, right? So you could say they lost the game largely in part to Kade York's inability to put it up through the uprights. So then he went 3 of 3 the following week. He bounced back, which is what you want to see from your kicker, right? Have a rough go of it. You come back, you show resilience, and you make all 3 of your kicks. So they're feeling at that point like, hey, we got ourselves a really good kicker because you're going to miss kicks. Kickers aren't going to be perfect. It's what you do in the aftermath of a miss that, you know, shows your ability to be a consistent kicker in this league. But then after the 3 of 3, things started to get a little uneven. 2 of 3 the following week versus the Ravens. That one miss, again, you hate to put it on the kicker. They lost the game by 3 points. He missed the field goal, right? So that miss against the Ravens in week 7 set off a chain of events where this man missed a kick in 4 out of the next 5 games, which is, again, that's some Dustin Hopkins type shit where we said, hey, we know Dustin's going to miss 1 kick. Let's just get it out of the way early. You never want to have a kicker where you go into a game saying, hey, he's going to miss 1. If he got to kick 3, he's going to miss 1. So let's just get the miss out of the way early. That's bullshit. Anytime you put your kicker on the field, you should feel confident that he's going to knock the football through the uprights. And for a stretch here from weeks 7 all the way to week 12, they just knew he was going to miss a kick somewhere in there. If he kicked more than 1 kick, he was going to miss. If he kicked 2 kicks, he was going to miss 1. If he kicked 3 kicks, he was going to miss 1, right? So if he kicked 2, he's going to be 1 or 2. If he kicked 3, he's going to be 2 or 3. You knew he was going to miss a kick. So against the Ravens, he was 2 of 3. The Dolphins, he only kicked 2. He only kicked 1. So he went 1 of 1 that week. The following week after the Dolphins, Ravens in week 7, 2 of 3. Bengals in week 8, 1 of 2. He only had 1 kick against the Dolphins in week 10. He made that 1 kick. You go to week 11 versus the Bills, he was 1 of 2. You go to the Bucks in week 12, he was 1 of 2. So he missed a kick in 4 out of 5 games. That is terrible, right? Because again, consistency is the key to field goal kicking. And at the end of the day, you're going to miss some kicks. I don't expect my kicker to kick 35 attempts in a season and go 35 of 35. 30 of 35 is what I'm looking for. 31 of 35, 32 of 35, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. What I'm not looking for is anything sub 80%. What 80% means is every 8 out of 10, every 4 out of 5, you're going to make. We'll take that. We'll take that. What we don't want is 75%, which is essentially every 7 out of 10 or every 3 out of 4 you're going to make. So he kept going. He got better as the season wore on. It was more consistent. 2 of 2 versus the Texans, 1 of 1 against Cincinnati. Then he had another setback game, 2 of 4 against the Ravens. Then he finished up 1 of 1 against the Saints, 1 of 1 against us in that game where Ronald Rivera didn't know we could be eliminated from playoff contention, and then 0 of 0 versus the Steelers. So I think from an extra point standpoint, he was pretty good. Let's see how many extra points he attempted. Look, they didn't do the math for us, so we're going to have to do the math ourselves. 2, 3, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 13, 15, 17, 20, 22, 26, 28, 30, 33, 35 extra points attempted. Or excuse me, that's made. 35 made. Let's see how many he attempted. 2, 3, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 13, 15, 17, 20, 22, 26, 28, 31, 35, 37. So he only missed 2 extra points. That's pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. 35 of 37 in the extra point department. And I'm more confident in Kade York. And I'm hoping that we get the Kade York that the Browns thought they were getting when they drafted him in the 4th round. Hopefully that, and he's young, right? So if this guy turns out to be really good for us this season, we could have a kicker for the next 12 years and not have to worry about doing this shit anymore, right? I mean, again, this man was drafted just 2 years ago. So I like this move. I don't love Kade York yet, but I don't have the same I don't want to say disdain. That's such a strong word. But there was a strong disliking for Riley Patterson when we brought I just didn't trust him. I think that's a better way to put it. There was a strong distrust in Riley Patterson. And I told you guys from the jump, I don't like Riley Patterson. There's a strong distrust here, and I don't really think he's going to be the answer to our kicking situation. And what happened? Ramiz Ahmed just seemed faulty from the beginning. There was no experience there. He seemed a bit skittish. The ball didn't pop off of his foot. It just seemed like he wasn't the answer either. Kade York has a big leg. Kade York has kicking experience. Kade York was a big-time collegiate kicker in a massive conference in the SEC. And so there's a lot of good things here with Kade York. The only question is, can he be consistent? Something that eluded him his first go-round, but maybe this second go-round is exactly what he needs. A fresh start here in Washington with an opportunity to be the guy. We'll see if he can take advantage of it. He's going to be the kicker on Sunday night. they're done with Riley Patterson in terms of, giving him opportunities. He's had all the opportunities. They cleared the deck for him. They released Ramiz Ahmed, and they gave him the keys, and he wrecked the car. So they know what he is now, okay? He's currently in driving school, is Riley Patterson. Now they've got a new car. They got a new set of keys. They're handing these keys to Kade York, and they're saying, hey, let's see what you got. And if he can find a way to navigate the preseason 3 roads cleanly and clearly, right, without wrecking the car, this is his job. They'll let him have the keys, and they're going to move on from Riley Patterson. Obviously, they traded for Kade York, so there's going to be a move made in conjunction to make the roster numbers work. I'm interested to see if they just go ahead and release Riley Patterson right out. I don't think they're going to do that, because in doing that, you now put yourself in a position. What if Kade York is an even worse train wreck than Riley Patterson, right? You just have to protect yourself in the event that Kade York comes over here and he is just horrible. You have to protect yourself in that event. So I'd like to think that they're going to release someone at a different position. More likely than not, to me, offensive line. Get rid of one of these back end of the roster offensive linemen that you don't need, and you move on. Or one of these defensive linemen like Andre Jones Jr., for instance. Not going to make this team. How much do you like him? I feel like you've replaced Andre Jones Jr. with Javonte John Baptiste. They're the same player, same length, same size, all of that stuff. They look like the same guy, but you drafted one and you didn't draft the other. So you just move on from one of those guys, right? So we'll see what move is made in conjunction with this trade once it's finalized. But it'll be interesting to see if they just flat out cut Riley Patterson to make room for Kade York. If they do that, then there you have it. They've made up their minds. There's no decision here to be made. It's done, right? If not, then there is technically a competition, but Kade York is going to be given an opportunity to flat out win this job, because, again, if he makes this roster, you're giving up a 7th round pick. So you want that 7th round pick to mean something, right? And my understanding of this is it's a conditional 7th, meaning if he makes the roster, they get a 7th. It could be a 7th that turns into a 6th or something like that should he make the roster. Maybe there's more stipulations other than making the roster. He has to, make 30 field goals or, attempt. It's not going to be the attempts. It's going to be the makes that would, ultimately determine a condition in a deal. It wouldn't be the attempts. So my guess is if he makes the roster, they get a 7th round pick. That's going to be my guess. It could be that if he's not only he makes the roster, but then he has to, if he makes the roster, it's a 7th rounder, and it could go to a 6th if he makes 30 field goals this season, something like that. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Let's get to the comment section. See what you guys have to say. You guys said Patterson is already gone. Is that already been announced that they moved on from Riley Patterson? It wouldn't shock me if they did that, because he's been so bad, right? They've given this guy every opportunity. And I felt like there was even more pressure on him when they released Ramiz Ahmed. You'd feel better if Ahmed was still there if you were Patterson. But they essentially cleared the deck and said, here you go. And they gave you the show. And he wasn't ready for that opportunity. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Door Gunner writes, keeping my kicking leg warm just in case. I would keep that thing warm too. Again, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. Just stay ready. You just never know. I like Kade York more than I like Riley Patterson, but that's not saying much because I didn't like Riley Patterson at all. So we'll find. I do know this much. Kade York is super talented, very capable. And, I think he's just one of those young kickers who kind of fell into that rut that young kickers often do, where there's inconsistencies there, and he just needs another opportunity, and he's going to get it here in Washington. Now, what does he do with it, right? We're hoping that his second act is far superior to his first, and now he's more comfortable, and he knows what his routine looks like in different types of situations and how he wants to kick the football, and his process is cleaner and more consistent. We're hoping that he's ironed out some of the kinks that allowed him to miss some kicks in Cleveland. And hopefully we found our kicker, not just for this year, but for many years to come. CJ Shoots Photo. Thank you for being a member for 35 months, almost at that 3-year anniversary. My guy, CJ Shoots Photo. Right? Looks like saving our number 2 waiver for someone else. Yeah, I think this was more about wanting to be aggressive and go get the kicker so that he could kick in the game on Sunday. You really want to see what he can do in a game-like situation. Obviously, it's a preseason game. It doesn't matter. But, you can't tell me that last year Joey Slye drilling that game winner against Baltimore in the preseason didn't enhance your confidence in Joey Slye going into the regular season. If that opportunity presents itself in his 3rd preseason game and he makes a kick, you're going to feel a lot better about him going into the regular season. Like, you want to see this guy be put into a game situation, 49 yards, 47 yards, 39 yards, 52 yards. Whatever the situation that arises in the game, you want to see what he does, right? Because if he goes out here and he goes 1 of 4 in the game, you're like, holy shit. We might have to get another one of these kickers that comes off the waiver wire here on Tuesday, right? So you got to really see what you have, and it's hard to, because practice is practice. While they may try to put pressure on you and try to simulate, hey, if you make this kick, practice is over. Hey, if you make this kick, we win the game. That's cool, but it's practice, and I know that this isn't actually a real game. So you can try to put that pressure on me. You can have the players on the sideline screaming like it's the crowd, but it's not. It's not a game. It's not a game situation. You want to see what a guy's going to do when he's put into those game situations. And Sunday is the last opportunity before they start to actually count. So I think they wanted to just circumvent that whole process, speed it up, expedite it, and get him in here so he can kick on Sunday night against the Patriots. And they need to see what he does from a kickoff standpoint. Remember, Tress Way is not a kickoff specialist. Our place kicker is going to be the guy kicking the football off. Can you kick the ball consistently in the kicking, the landing zone? Can you, kick it on a line? Can you, directional kick it? Can you pop-up kick it? Like, what other tools do you have in your bag? They need to figure all those things out, right? What if he can't consistently kick it in the landing zone? That's a problem, right? So these are all things that they need to figure out, and I think they want to see it in action, and the sooner the better, right? The sooner the better. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, another safety, Defoe and Percival don't blink. They're fine. Like, the safety position is set. Like, the question now I'm thinking is it 6 or 7 safeties that they're keeping? Which is insane to even be talking about that. But I think that's where we are right now. Is it 6 or 7? I think we're way past the 5 number, right? I think they're trying to convince themselves that we can keep Dominique Hampton and he can serve as a hybrid linebacker, right? They're Tyler Owen, same deal, right? Like, they're trying to convince themselves that we can keep 7, and this is how we can do it. We'll see, right? Jamal Hamlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Jamal writes, Pat's like, oh, you want to hit people with trash can? Look, man, we're going to see what happens. It's going to be nice to see our old buddy, Joey Sly, in town in this third preseason game. We're going to see roster spots 48 through 53 are probably going to be determined in this third and final preseason game. And I think we just determined one of them with this move. I'd say that there's a 95% chance that Kade York is going to be the week 1 kicker. 95% chance. When you trade a pick for a guy, pretty much means that this guy's supposed to work out. I mean, he's just got to be absolutely horrid in the game on Sunday night to not be here as our week 1 kicker. I think this is the guy that's ultimately going to be kicking the football for us this year. So that's another thing we add to the ledger in terms of things to look for going into Sunday night's game versus the Patriots in the third and final preseason game. Super duper DB GOAT. Stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. Mob, you know what to do. Show Super DB GOAT some love and welcome in with open arms. Super DB GOAT. Glad to have you a part of the squad. Welcome aboard. So we're gonna see. Oh yeah, and somebody else said Antonio Gibson and Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, few former Commanders will be on that sideline this weekend coming up, and it'll be nice to see AG, right? And I'm pretty sure most of his former teammates will be glad to see him, dap him up, show him some love. Jacoby Brissett, same deal. There's not as many guys here that have ties to Jacoby Brissett. A lot of those guys are gone, but Terry and Jahan and a couple of those guys. None of the quarterbacks were here last year, so it's not like he has any ties to the quarterback room from a season ago. So, but there's a few guys, and then Sly obviously was here, and so it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out on Sunday. But now we have another storyline to follow, and that is of kicker Kade York, who is traded from the Browns to the Commanders for a conditional 7th round pick. I think you guys are telling me that Riley Patterson has been released. I trust that happened, and Patterson did it to himself. And so now Kade York comes in, and he's got a chance to put a stranglehold on a position that we need clarity. We need consistency. We need production. Hopefully Kade York can give it to us. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Commanders trade for place kicker Kade York from the Browns, former 2022 4th round pick out of LSU. So we got a very young kicker who's only kicked in the NFL for 1 season. That was not last year in 2023, but the year prior in 2022. He had some struggles in his rookie season after a torrid and a blazing start to his career. He was off to a torrid pace, and then started to have the ups and downs that you see from a kicker. And then he struggled the following offseason. That prompted them to go get one of our old buddies, Dustin Hopkins, who had a career year last year, and hence no more Kade York. So York bounced around last year. Tennessee, Giants, ultimately didn't really find his footing anywhere. Ended back up in Cleveland this offseason, and now he's here in Washington. Let's see how it goes. But one thing's for sure, something needed to be done. Something needed to be done. I like it a lot. So, Marks, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB. So glad to have you on board. Mob, you know what to do. Show Mark some love. Show him what it's like to be a member of the best squad in the game, the Mob Squad. Welcome to the squad. Marks, glad to have you. So, with that said, we're going to get out of here, and we're going to reconvene later on today. They have practice today. We'll probably hear from Dan Quinn. Maybe we'll hear from, one of the coordinators or something like that. Probably not. Probably just be Dan Quinn. But whatever the case may be, we'll have something to discuss. We'll probably talk about the kicker situation a little bit more because they'll probably ask him about it at his press conference and why they decided to make the decision and the move. And we'll see what else happens at practice today. Does Brandon Coleman get out there for some teamwork today? That's another thing and another storyline we'll be following. If he does, then the question becomes, how does he feel, in the aftermath of practice, and can he go on Sunday? But in any event, I'll see you guys a little bit later on this evening. Podcast later on today. Show. We got some NFL preseason action, so I'll see how everything's going to fit in terms of the schedule tonight. But because I do want to go live after one of those games, but we'll see because I got a number of things that I'm kind of juggling here. I want a command post live show. I want my podcast. I want to do something after one of these games, but might not be realistic, right? So we'll see. Anyway, we'll figure it all out. But you'll see me again. Just be sure of that. You guys take care. Enjoy the rest of your morning. And I'll see you guys a little bit later on. Have a good one. Any other big news happens, you'll see my face all up in your space. But until then, you guys take care. Have a good one.